Then in analog modulation, there are three types of modulation. Quickly, we will see the definition of each modulation. So the first one is AM modulation. AM means what? Varying amplitude of the carrier is varied with respect to AC is varied. AC is varied with respect to the AM. With respect to AM. AM means what? Amplitude of message signal. So similarly, what is FM? What is FM? Again, FC. FC means frequency of the carrier. FC. FC is varied with respect to the, again, amplitude of the message signal only. Amplitude of message signal. Then what is PM? PM means varying angle or angle of the carrier. Okay, that means phase of the carrier is varied with respect to the, again, amplitude of the message signal. So these two, FM signal and PM signal, combinedly we will call it as a angle modulation. Angle modulation. Again, you know, from the basics of signals, sine omega t, say suppose if I'm writing as pi, then the same thing simply I can write it as theta. Theta is indicating omega t plus pi, omega t plus pi. That means what? If I am varying frequency, indirectly I am varying phase, or otherwise if I am varying phase, indirectly I am varying frequency, instantaneous frequency. That means if you vary the frequency, indirectly phase will vary, or if you vary the phase, indirectly frequency also will vary. That's why both mostly FM, this derivation of FM and PM is almost same. அதனுடைய bandwidth இது எல்லாமே வந்து ஆல்மோஸ்ட் சேமாக தான் இருக்கும். பட் தேர் இஸ் சம் லிட்டில் டிஃப்ரென்ஸ், அதை நம்ம டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணும்போது பார்ப்போம். எஃப்எம் பிஎம் இருந்தாலும் ப்ராக்டிக்கலி வி வில் யூஸ் ஒன்லி எஃப்எம் இன் ப்ராக்டிக்கல் கேசஸ். பிஎம் நம்ம மோஸ்ட்லி யூஸ் பண்ணுறதில்ல. பட் த சேம் பிஎம் டெக்னிக்ஸ் டிஜிட்டல் கம்யூனிகேஷனில் நம்ம அதிகமாக வந்து யூஸ் பண்ணுவோம். ஸோ அனலாக் கம்யூனிகேஷனை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ப்ராக்டிக்கலாக வந்து நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணுறது ஏஎம் அண்டு எஃப்எம் மட்டும்தான். சரி, நெக்ஸ்ட் we will see the frequency, base frequency of the different signal. Say we are having voice signal and audio signal. These are all the sum of the message signal. Examples for the message signal. And then we can say video signal, and then data, computer data. So if it is a voice signal, what is the frequency range of the voice signal? So generally voice will have some frequency range. Say it will have frequency range from 0 to 5 kilohertz. Okay, sometime in the books, instead of 5 kilohertz, they may mention 4 kilohertz, or sometime they may mention 3.5 kilohertz. Even some book they will mention 3 kilohertz. Okay, so quickly I will explain why in different places they are using different kilohertz. Okay, the next that audio signal will have frequency range from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Then what is the difference between audio and voice? Audio means combination of voice as well as music. Audio means combination of voice as well as music. Music, generally that musics will have high frequencies as compared to our voice. That musical instruments will produce high frequency. That's why audio is going from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. And then video signal, in general, it goes from 0 to 5 megahertz. It goes from 0 to 5 megahertz, or in the some book, instead of 5 megahertz, sometimes they may use 7 megahertz also, along with the guard band and some other signal, or in some book they will use 4 megahertz also. But exams la question கேட்கும்போது they will not give all the options. ஏதாவது ஒன்று தான் கொடுப்பாங்க. ஸோ அதனால நீங்கள் என்னன்னு தெரிஞ்சால் போதும். If it is a data signal, it can have any frequency range actually. Okay, anything. Data, depending on the data rate, data speed, that frequency, we cannot define the baseband frequency for data. Data means ones and zeros. Okay, it is a digital data. So digital data also needs some analog carrier signal. That time it needs some amount of bandwidth. Actually, the frequency occupied by the data depends directly proportional to the data rate. It is directly proportional to the data rate, RB, actually, the frequency occupied by the data. So these are all the common message signal. Next, Next, we will enter into the AM modulation. இப்போ நம்ம இவ்வளோ நேரம் டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணது எல்லாமே ஜஸ்ட் பேசிக்ஸ் ஆஃப் மாடுலேஷன் தான், பேசிக்ஸ் ஆஃப்